like I said, he does this cool like blow technique to where like the air spirals and it hits like Hades' chi, and you can see the vibrations like going through his body, and he ends up literally dodging and knocking off, like I said, his equilibrium to strike him. And he has, like I said, he styled real cute, cool, real cute. And he has like these two like sharp things on each finger, and he like strikes him right where he blew at. He blew like right where his chest is, and he struck him right there. And this was called Shi Lance form, how he hit Hades. Those are his dragon talons. He calls it Mount Tai Dragon Talons. That's what he calls his little things. Oh shit, so he didn't strike him there even though it blew there. So I'm guessing the air was to throw him off balance for him to strike him. He ended up hitting him like near his like what is this, hip bone? There we go. So Kanjiro, Harris, Harris, um and then the two other people who ended up like taking up for Buddha when they were about to like press him and try to fight him, quote unquote, in like the like like not pond area, I would say like the fountain area where they chill or whatever. They're there and they're talking about Shen Shi Qin Shi's like technique or whatever, and Kijiro is like talking about the different chi and how like everyone has like a flow state of chi, and you can like his technique knocks off the flow state of the chi basically. Definitely giving like Kung Fu Panda, like I said. And he's describing it as a linchpin, so like energy literally flowing through, like how they're like showing you or whatever, but the chi's like the middle, but it's flowing outwards. You feel me? And like if you touch like you quote unquote said, like the linchpin of like the certain area of the chi, it can disrupt their flow state, like I said. So when Qin Shi was like talking about all I can see is stars, and then you look back and then it pans back to Hades. It pans back to Hades, and all you can see is some bright gold like stars within different parts of his body, and that is Qin Shi's like superpower, where he's able to see the different cheese, but he calls them stars, and literally his eyes are like silver stars. So like that's crazy. And he calls it stars, where he uses, like I said, that air technique to disturb the flow of chi so that he can land a strike on his opponents and stuff like that. So then Gon brings up an interesting question of why was he blindfolded the whole time, and Brunhilde was like, for someone to have that immense amount of power, they have to like give up something. So we're about to basically learn what that is. And then that same spot where he hit Hades with the dragon like attack, he ended up having like the same wound as Hades as well. And he was like, that's why I hate fighting with my eyes, because it hurts. I end up taking on the pain of, somebody when I look at them, basically. It's kind of like Zero Fuku, except Zero Fuku did it willingly, and Shen Shi didn't. So they're calling him, like, since birth, he was like the cursed prince, basically, in history. That's what they're calling Shen Shi. So Zhen Shi ended up basically becoming like a orphan, damn it, by his dad, because he ended up getting his like mistress pregnant. Even though she technically wasn't a mistress, he was captured by other troops at the time, and he ended up having fun with a dancer, and then she conceived him, but he didn't want him, and then also she didn't want to raise him, so they both abandoned him in the place to where he took over, and he caused war, and he like literally buried like four almost 500 men underneath the ground. And ever since, because of that, and also because he's the son of the general who did that, aka like the king at that time, like emperor, and they, yeah, everyone started hating him, you feel me? And he was a captive in that certain place. He was under protection, under protective order, so no one could do nothing to him, but they had a whole bunch of hatred and anger towards him because of his parent. So he's 7 at this time when we learn this, and he's very, very like keep stuff together. He has like kind of this weird grin about himself where it's like, you know, when someone says something offensive to you but you like smile it off like he kind of has that type of thing going on with himself. So I don't know if this is a defense mechanism to protect himself, or he's just made this shell of himself of, you know, not people pleasing, but like, you know, being nice to people who aren't nice to him. So people pleasing in a sense. Yeah. So like so he came back within the town, like he has his little groceries or whatever, and the guards are like talking shit about him being like, you feel me, like you're a disgrace, like the only reason why you haven't been killed or dead yet basically is because like you're under order of protection, so that's the only thing like saving you. And then he like and then he was like, I don't give a frig like why I'm doing this. And then he thanks them for protecting him and stuff like that. And he like does like, you know, like a smile, like I said, where like, you know, it's awkward or whatever, like especially after being insulted like that. And they was like, yo, this kid is friggin' weird, like he's friggin' creeping me out and stuff like that. And then he just goes about his business, you know what I'm saying? So the smile is definitely a coping mechanism. So then he's walking back into the entrance of his house, and he ends up seeing a lady blowing, you know, those like blow fans or whatever, you can blow them, or wind, no, it's not wind chimes, but like you could put them up and they blow or whatever. And you know, sometimes people put them on like their like graves and stuff like that, you know, the spin thingies. So yeah, she's blowing it and playing, like, you know, just having fun on the like the little stone thing. And he's talking to her, and she was like, I'm your new caregiver or whatever. And she's like kind of really scary, and he's like taking it very, very well. And he's like, oh well, thank you for like, you know, protecting me and being here with me. And she's like, well, show me the place, you feel me? And she shows he shows her where he lives, and it's so dirty and so effed up. And she was like, yo, this place is a mess. And he was like, well, you know, this is, you know, what I do, you know what I'm saying? And then she's like, we're gonna clean this up. So that was their type of relationship, to where like she gave him like, I feel like this is his first time he ever experienced like true, genuine like kindness. Even though she's been like passive and a little bit like stern or whatever, you could tell in her facial and body expression that like she's soft and like kind on him type vibe. So then she makes a comment like how he always smiles way too much or whatever, and she was like, kids aren't supposed to be like this. So she's like, you know, like kind of picking on him, or not picking on him, picking at him about his like deflection mechanism. And then she's like, you know, kids are used to like throwing tantrums and like crying and expressing themselves, and he does not do that. He just smiles through it, even though it's like a shield, like I said, a defense mechanism that he created for himself, you know what I'm saying? And she was like, you don't even cry or anything. And then he starts like fake acting like, oh, I'm sad, you know what I'm saying? And then she's like, are you mocking me? He's like, no. He's like, I'm just trying to like, you know, like appease you, you feel me? Like, you know, I'm just different, you know? I never really had that space, or was like vulnerable enough with myself, you feel me? Mind you, he's only 7, to like, you know, release and express these emotions. And mind you, he's been by himself this whole time, except people watching him and keeping him under surveillance. So he has no other interaction except with people hating on him. So what other thing can you possibly do to help like cope with yourself while you're experiencing something like that, especially at such a young age? Smile. That's the best thing you can do, is smile through the pain, basically. That's so funny that we see that within his childhood, because that's what he's doing in his fighting. As he endures more and more pain, he smiles through it. And Hades even, you know, like I said, gave him props and was like, you know, that's a king. Like, I like to see that, you know what I'm saying? Like, this was really his first, like, quote unquote relative that he got to live with. Like, he didn't live with his parents, you know, none of that. Like, he's been on his own this whole time, man. Like, that's a lot to deal with, you know, as like only a 7-year-old.